Welcome to Everything Life and Financial Freedom. We are your hosts, Linda and Jim McKissack. If you know our story, you know that we went from over $600,000 in debt to having financial freedom. We share some of the insights and practical tips that we've learned over the last 30 years for achieving financial freedom, building wealth, and building an extraordinary life. Let's get started with today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Financial Freedom. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Jim McKissack.
And we're just two average people who have decided to have an extraordinary life. And our goal here with our podcast is to help you guys do the same thing. And one of the ways we're going to do that is interview amazing, talented people that we are finding are on their journey to build an extraordinary life and have made those decisions and share those stories with you. And today, Nick, how long have you been Press's friend?
Feels like 50 years now, but it's probably, let's see, we're 31. So 25, 26 years, probably something like that.
So the reason I'm asking that is because how many times have we actually probably mispronounced your name? It's Avila, right? Or Avila.
That's better than how Press says it, actually. That was close. It was Avila.
Well, see, I've always said Avila, but then somebody else says Avila. So I'm like, well, maybe I'm wrong. So anyway,
No,
Nick,
yeah.
Avila.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Pretty good, huh? All right. So kick us off, Nick. You have been friends with our youngest son, Press McKissack, for 30 something years. Y'all met, I think, when you were 3 years old, quite honestly, if I remember correctly.
However old you are in kindergarten. I don't have kids yet, so I don't know what age you go.
Yeah, y'all were the youngest group to go to Montessori school. I do remember that. And then y'all played soccer together. So kick us off. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your journey, and then kind of your beginning journey into investing and building wealth. And why did you decide that?
Well, I mean, I got into this because of you guys, honestly, and meeting Press and kind of growing up with y'all as second family. So, saw y'all's story in real estate and what y'all were able to accomplish, and thought I should kind of get some of that and so I got interested in real estate and kind of have that whole rich dad, poor dad story a little bit. And I learned from you guys with that. And so that just got me interested in money and real estate. And I love houses and fixing them up and saw the value, I guess, of like owning properties from what y'all were doing. So that's kind of what got me started and interested in the journey in the first place.
So do you think it was a lifestyle that you saw? I mean, most kids growing up, they don't pay that much attention to what's going on around them. And they wait till they're out of high school or college and think, oh, crap, now I need to make some money. But what did you do? Did you just observe a lifestyle?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, that's true. When you're a kid, you really don't know much about money, or like you can only you see the results of it. And so I just saw, I guess, the progression, I guess, of the different places where y'all lived. And since I was always over at the house hanging out with Press, I was like, these homes keep changing every so often. They keep getting nicer and nicer. So something must be happening here. So, I didn't really have a concept of like money per se, but I could definitely see the effects of it. And so that's, as a kid, and then as I got older, you kind of learned some more. But I definitely in high school, I was a big reader and still am. And so I read a ton of those financial books, like the Robert Kiyosaki, stuff like that. So I probably got interested in it, maybe earlier than a lot of people do. Like once they're out of college and like, okay, now I need to start making money. I probably thought about that when I was in high school. So
yeah. Matter of fact, one of my favorite things to do would go down in my strategy room and you and Press be strategizing on who is going to be your mentors and how much money you were going to make or what business you were going to do. Just was always very, very fond memories. I think you kind of like the vacations we went on too.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
Kind of entered the investing world through real estate sales, right?
Well, they kind of happened at the same time because I got my real estate license right when I went to college or right when I graduated from high school. But going with you, I remember like to the foreclosure auctions, watching you bid on properties, I remember walking through homes that you were working on with David, your contractor, and seeing them kind of halfway through the phase of being done. And I thought that was really cool. I love the process of seeing a home being torn apart and put back together, making it look really good. And I guess, everyone just kind of has things they're naturally like. Some people like engineering and just naturally drawn to certain things. And I just think the process of like fixing up at home is really cool. And so that has to do with real estate investing. And so I didn't really like sell a ton of real estate and then get into investing. It's like I kind of got into investing, I think, almost first, and then which made me want to get my real estate license.
Yeah, like Linda and I, we used our real estate sales money from generating the money from sales to get us put our down payments down on our properties and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
didn't do that. What did you do to get started? Because it takes money to get started.
Yeah, well, the easiest way is to live in the home. And so, when I graduated college, I had a job with a home builder. And so I was just kind of making like a normal, not quite salary, it's kind of a draw system, but more or less a normal salary. And so I just saved up money and moved out of my parents' house and bought a home. And, it was like 5% down when you're moving into it. So you don't have to have a ton of money. And then just found some roommates to live with. And then I did that again. So a year later, you just did it again and brought my roommates with me. So like, that's the easiest way is to, you don't need 20% down when you're doing that. So I was able to get 2 properties for, 5% down a piece, and go from there. And then, when you're flipping properties, you can use private money, hard money, and kind of like that, and then pay it back. So you don't have to necessarily have a ton of your own cash as long as you kind of know what you're doing and do your numbers right. So
You still own those 2 houses?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good.
So I'm sure, it's not normal for someone your age to start investing and you decided you didn't want to do real estate sales and you didn't want to like do anything in your field that's your degree. And a lot of times when we kind of do something that's different than what the rest of the world does, we get a lot of naysayers or even people that care about us and love us, will sometimes say, well, why don't you get a real job? Or what are you doing? Or why are you taking all that risk? Did you ever get any feedback from friends or anybody that kind of question what you're doing?
Honestly, I can't really think. My parents have always been kind of like, pretty laid back, I guess, letting me do what I want to do. A lot of friends, honestly, I think like real estate investing is in a way like kind of I don't know, like kind of sexy almost, like buying houses for cash. So like it sounds cool, I guess. And so I didn't really get like when I talk to friends now, they're like, a lot of people have kind of typical corporate jobs and they're like, oh, it sounds cool to like have, freedom and stuff. And I'm like, I'm still like, I'm not making like a ton of money right now. Like I'm still kind of on that journey to financial freedom. So it's, there's positive negatives to both sides, but I say a lot of people kind of like are intrigued, and interested by it.
That's great.
And one thing, it always takes the one common denominator we all have as investors is time. And to really build wealth, it takes time to do that. And so investing in real estate and letting it pay for itself while you're continuing to grow it and build, that's pretty cool, Nick, especially for somebody your age. How old were you when you bought your first investment property?
I think I was 25 or 26.
Wow.
Did you already ask him how many he has already?
No.
Yeah. So, so where are you at today? How many do you have? And then do you have a goal or a plan that you're working off of, or?
So I mean my wife and I, we have 5 rental properties, and then we own the place that we live in. So 6 total, but 5 rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
As far as goals go, I honestly don't have a certain number. It's really just kind of like what Jim said in the growth phase. So I just want to kind of, find as many good deals as I can. And it really like those first couple that I got, like, couple were just on the MLS. And so they weren't like smoking deals. It was just that now they look like smoking deals because it's like 5-6 years later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Well, also the other thing you do, and this won't apply to everybody that listens to our podcast, but it'll certainly apply to some and give them an idea of opportunities to look for. But the other thing you do is you spend a lot of your time building your passive income through Keller Williams profit share. And you've done really pretty good there. You're one of the leading people as far as doing that. Kind of talk about that a little bit. And what did you do? Just decide there were 2 paths to do it and you were going to pick both, or how did you go about deciding what to do?
Yeah, I guess I have you to thank for that as well. So, Jim got me on the houses and you got me on the profit share. So y'all can see what you did to me.
There you go. You're welcome.
Yeah. And I mean, press too, because they really helped set up the system behind profit share. So, I'm not like the most technically smart person. So it definitely helps to have people fill in the gaps for your weaknesses. But once we got kind of system and everything set up, and I've been doing recruiting with Keller Williams for the past 5 years, and that's been going well. So I can't, even though the way the money comes to you is passive, like I work on it every single day. So like I consider that to be sort of my job. As you guys said, you use your real estate business to like kind of fund all the stuff that you were doing. So I'm considering that as growing and building that to be sort of the job that hopefully is going to pay for, the other stuff. So,
yeah. And I think in 5 years, you've made a little over 100,000 total in the profit share system.
Yeah. It's actually, it's like 150,000, something in that range.
Wow.
So
That's awesome. That's great. What advice would you give someone else that, why would you tell people that it's important to even think of this as early as possible and to work on it as early as possible?
Like Jim said, like time is the best, thing. Like, even when you look at the growth of like an IRA or 401k, the most of it happens in like the last 5 or 10 years if you've been investing in it for 40 years before you retire. So it's like the compounding. And so the same thing with real estate, you're paying down your mortgage, the appreciation of the house is going up. And so it's like time is the biggest factor. So if you buy like even like I said, those houses I bought 5 years ago, they were decent deals, but not like smoking deals. But they look like amazing deals today because it's like 5 or 6 years later, we have a ton of appreciation and stuff. And so it's the time that's like made it look really good. So the earlier you start, the more time you have. So
right. And did you have any fear or anything in the very beginning getting started? Was there any concerns or fear you had, or
not?
You don't look
not
like
really.
you don't look like you have a worry gene in your body. But just wondering if you had a little silent worry.
I guess, no, because when I started, as far as married, just as like a single guy, it's like, I'm not too worried about money, honestly. Like, so I guess not too much to lose. And so, in that situation, not too afraid to take risks. I still take risks now, still calculated risks, but like when I got started, I wasn't like too worried about it, honestly, because not too much to lose, I guess. So
Nick, if you and Nicole sit down and really discuss what are your financial goals, what's the end look like?
Obviously, I don't think if we really thought about the ends, but growing the wealth and the net worth, and like I think I was telling you last year, one of the goals was to hit 1 million, and which I guess thanks to appreciation we did, or thanks to buying properties, we one way or another we hit that. But definitely growing that, and I would say like net worth and just like income, from the rental properties, from the profit share and all that kind of stuff. So growing both those, I don't necessarily have a specific number in mind, so we might want to think about that, but it's really just as working every day to grow it as much as possible.
Now, sometimes when Jim and I work with people, they say this is a great idea, but my spouse is really risk adverse and they're going to have a hard time with this. You were doing this before you got married, and I know your wife has a steady job, so she might see risk differently than you. Was there any things you had to overcome there where?
I think like we definitely have a larger emergency funds and cash than I had, just by myself before. So that's something, but there's nothing wrong with that. And then, but no, like something like what not 1 Minute Million, the Millionaire Next Door book talks about, like if you have one spouse who spends a lot or one who's like not on board with that, it's like really makes it really difficult. But I'd say, but we're both on board with it. Like she sees the value in owning property. She's actually kind of funny. She went to Texas Tech and is from Lubbock. So it's like, buy more houses in Lubbock, because the last property we bought that we're working on is in Lubbock. And so it's like, as many as you want to buy there, it sounds great. So she's I'd say we're both aligned with it. So, I'm definitely thankful about that.
Yeah, that helps. Well, and I think you hit on a really good point. And this is the advice that we actually give couples sometimes is ask them money would have to be in the bank for them to feel okay for you to take some risk so that you could have more in the future and have more freedom and more options in the future. Because I think when you're young, for sure, people don't think about graduallys and suddenlies in your life, and you might not have even had one happen yet, but except for COVID, right? But those are going to happen. The longer you live, the more you're going to experience that kind of stuff. And so the better prepared you can be is always better. But hello, thank you for listening to the Everything Life and Financial Freedom podcast. For transcripts, resources, and more, visit the episode page on the podcast website at everythinglifeandfinancialfreedom.com. You can also download our Freedom Number worksheet. This worksheet will help you determine the amount of passive income you need to generate each year to sustain the lifestyle you have or the lifestyle you want when you no longer wish to work or simply want the freedom of your time and your money.
I'll tell you what's really exciting about your story, Nick. You know, there's two sides of money. There's the earned income side and there's the passive income side. Most people spend their life always on the earned income side. Very few people really work on the passive income side with a business plan. And you guys have really transcended completely to the passive side. Every bit of income that you're looking at for your future is passive income. That's a different kind of income than earned income. Doing something so that you have the freedom to go do whatever you want to do and free up your time, it really fits you.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, I talked to my friends, talking what we were talking about before about, do people think it's weird or something? And I was like, this is really, I've never had kind of a quote unquote like normal job paycheck kind of situation. And so I'm like, I don't know if it's weird or different. It's just kind of normal for me. It's what I'm used to. So I don't really know what to say about it.
Yeah. So it's kind of what you were after in the first place. What are some of the lessons you've learned along the way? Because we always say, there's never failures, there's just lessons. But what are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Yeah. I guess, specific to like real estate or investing or that kind of stuff, or just in general. Definitely like start as early as you can. The time is the biggest thing, having time on your side for, compound interest and letting things grow like that. I've definitely spent like more money than I expected on like fixing up a house and that kind of stuff, going over budget. And so, specifically on that, just make sure your numbers are good and you kind of conservative on your estimates on what you're going to sell it for and that kind of stuff. And then, if you can, like, if you're in a situation where you can just like buy a house and have some people, live with you and pay rent and do it that way, that's a great way to get started. So.
And that's one thing about being young. You're not married. You don't have the responsibilities. You could have roommates and they could pay off the house. And then also you have that 30 years to finance those properties so that you don't get over leveraged by chance.
Well, even if you are married, like this place that we bought, like we live in a duplex, and it's a 3-bedroom, like it's the size of a house. It's pretty big for a duplex, but the plan was like, I wanted to find a place for our first property that we could live in for a little bit and then move out and rent. And so this is one that we could do with that. It's not like a very expensive house that the mortgage is too high to rent it out or something like that. So. Yeah,
that's a good point. Start.
That's a great strategy.
Yeah, it is. What advice would you give someone who wants to get into real estate investing and they say, well, there's this money obstacle, there's all these obstacles. What would you say to them? Does anybody ever ask you, well, how could I do it because I've got this obstacle or that obstacle?
Yeah. If it's a money obstacle, kind of like I was saying, the easiest way is to move in, find a property that's, cheap enough that you can rent out, so don't buy like a $500,000 home that you're going to like make your forever house or something like that. Like, so the easiest way is, the owner occupied loan, 5% down, to put 20% down. Or if you like wanting to flip a home or something, and partnerships are a great deal. Jim and I partnered on a flip and that. So, find a funding partner or private money in that situation. So, if you find the property and put the work in, you can find someone to kind of fund it for you and split it that way. So, I know there's a few different options to get around the money problem, I'd say.
Yeah. How are you finding properties right now? It's a little, the market's a little tighter still, even though we're more in a downturn. We're still not seeing a flood of foreclosures or anything. So how do you spend your time to look for them?
Well, so yeah, it's tough because where I live in like this county, like the average price is about 500 for a property, and so that didn't really work for rentals or any of that kind of stuff. But like the last one that I bought, and so number one, I've started looking cheaper markets, which is Lubbock. So and I bought that one on the market, so it's obviously I offered less than what was listing, and it needed work, so I got it for a decent price. So you can look in cheaper markets outside of, DFW, or if you're, whatever market you're in that's expensive. Also, I've just been doing a lot of networking. And so just finding a niche. I also do cold calling as well. So there's a lot of kind of direct to seller methods if you want to do like direct mail, cold calling. And I do networking specifically in like kind of the senior space. And so that's kind of a whole nother topic. But, just finding ways to go direct to seller is really where the best deals are found. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think in the market we're seeing right now that it's coming on board, we're going to move to a neutral market, then we're going to move to a buyer's market. In the buyer's market, in a down market, is when wealth is really built. And so I think the time that's coming is going to be the time to have the money and to be able to go out there and to invest in real estate. I think we're entering a great market for the investor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, ever since I got into it, it's been going up and up and up. So this is kind of my first time in this type of market. So.
Got it. Well, one last question as we close out, Nick, what would you do differently if you were to start all over again today? Would there be anything you'd do differently this
time? I mean, I like what I did with kind of how I bought the homes and moved into them. I honestly would have tried to do it like 2 or 3 more times if I could. I did it twice, and if I could have done it like 3 or 4 times, that would have been even better. And prices were pretty good 5 or 6 years ago. Although probably 5 years from now I'll be saying they were good today, so who knows.
So true.
That's true.
So yeah, honestly, I would try to done that a couple more times, honestly. So
yeah, that's true. I think everybody always says the same thing. I would have done it sooner or more.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nick. We appreciate that today. And if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and hit that button below. And the greatest compliment you can give us is to pass this podcast along to someone that you believe is a person that deserves an extraordinary life. Again, we're just average people who have decided to have an extraordinary life, and our goal is to help you guys do the very same thing. So, Nick, thank you. Appreciate your story today. And Jim, I'll see you next time.
All right. See you next time, Linda.
Thanks for having me on.
Nick, you're awesome.
That's
all right.
great.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening today. If you haven't already, please subscribe and share this podcast with others. The greatest compliment you can give us is to leave a 5-star review, and please feel free to reach out to us at info@lindamckissack.com. We would love to hear from you about any ideas, topics, or guests to include on our podcast. So see you next time.